Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this special edition of Crafting with Class. Today is the first day of my beginner card maker series. The intention of the series is to introduce beginner card makers or new card makers or anyone interested in different topics of card making. So I'll be talking about tips, tools, advice, and all those things that many beginner card makers ask me about. So class number 1 today is what you really need to start with card making. Now, in my opinion, and all of these are just my opinion, but what you really just need to get started are 3 things. So 1 is going to be paper, your cardstock. 2, some way to cut that cardstock, which is scissors and a trimmer. And then how do you stick them together to make a card, and that's adhesive. So these are the 3 foundations I would start with. Let's talk all things paper. So I'm going to have a few cardstock that I have to share with you, and I'm not recommending anything particular in this entire video. I'm just sharing some things that fall under these categories. I'm going to make my recommendations in a whole separate video. All right, so let's get started. When you buy a pack of paper, you're going to get some information. So you're going to get the weight of the paper. So in this case, it says 65 pound, 176 GSM. And then you also get, there's 50 sheets in this pack. This pack is 8.5 by 11. So you usually get those 3 important things. Without overly complicating this, because it can get a little tricky, GSM simply stands for grams per square meter. And this is what the paper industry uses to make sure that they're all on the same page, basically. No pun intended. So just simply put, the higher the GSM, the more the paper is going to weigh. And that way you can know for sure if this is heavyweight paper or not. You can get paper in solid stacks, or like this one where you have the different shades of the same color, like different shades of pink, or you can get solid colors. And it's nice to have these variety packs because then you get different shades of that same color. But you can also get packs with primary colors, your rainbow colors. So it all, depends on that. I would recommend definitely you get a pack of primary colors that has your basic colors plus black and white. So here is the Nina white cardstock. So Nina is just a brand. 80 pound is what this weighs. So technically this is supposed to be a thicker, heavier weight paper than the one I just showed you. That was 65 pounds. Okay, so this is usually what we consider 65 and 85 pound layering weight. So this is an example of 100 pound cardstock. So this is considered heavyweight cardstock also. And this is good cardstock for card bases because they're going to hold up your card. It's not going to bend and buckle under the weight of whatever embellishments you put on it. So usually card makers will use this 100 pound or 110 pound for, card bases for that reason. So when you feel 65 pound versus 100, 110 pound, you're going to feel the difference in weight for sure. So the 65 pound, the 80 pound, you can also use as card bases, but I would recommend adding a second layer to the inside just to add, to give it a little bit more strength inside, or strength to the card. Okay, next I'm going to show you an example of 110 pound. So this is the Pen & Gear brand, and I believe I got this at Walmart. So it says premium cardstock, heavyweight, and all that. So it's more inexpensive. So you get 150 sheets, 110 pounds. And so this is a good option. I actually use this to print when I need to print on my laser printer. And then here is the Nina Classic Crest Solar White. This is very, very common among card makers to use for their card bases. But if you can see here, it says 110 pound, 297 GSM. Whereas this one is 110 pound, but 199 GSM. So and this is what kind of makes it tricky, because sometimes even though it says it's the same pound, the GSM will tell you it's a different weight paper. So the Nina is much heavier, much sturdier, than the pen and gear paper. So it's good, I guess, to go by the poundage, but it's also a very good idea to look at the GSM because that'll be a little bit more accurate. And it's a little complicated, but let's just leave it at that. To keep it simple, the pound, the higher the pound, usually the thicker the cardstock is. Now, the other numbers you want to look at is, like 8.5 by 11 means it's 8.5 across, 11 inches down or vertically. And then this is like an example of 12 by 12. So this is a square piece of paper because you're 12 inches across and 12 inches down. Now the paper comes in different sizes, but 8.5 by 11, 12 by 12 are probably some of the most common sizes. Okay, let's talk about scissors and trimmer. So to begin, I would recommend that you get 2 pair of scissors. One, just your general use scissors. You probably already have something at home. It doesn't have to be anything special. The second pair of scissors that I would definitely recommend would be a small pair of detail scissors like this. Scissors are nice because they have a non-stick coating on the tip, so your glue and different tape adhesives won't get stuck. It's easy to use. You can get really close in there to whatever it is you're cutting. Very sharp scissors, so I would definitely recommend a small pair of scissors like this. The other thing I would recommend is a paper trimmer. Now, it's not either one or the other, right? I wouldn't say get either scissors or trimmer. I would say you need both because these are very separate tools for very different purposes. You can use scissors to cut, but I know I cannot cut straight, like perfectly straight. So this is where a trimmer comes in. There's other uses for a paper trimmer. You can also use it to score. You can use it for different things. So I think this is a definite must-have tool. This is the one that I have. It's a Fiskars trimmer. I love it. I won't get into it today. Again, I will discuss it in more detail in my recommendations for tools video. But I definitely think you should look into getting a trimmer and a detailed pair of scissors and also just a regular pair of scissors. Let's talk about our last topic for today, which is adhesives. There are 2 main types of adhesives that you're going to come across, which is the liquid adhesive, or we call wet adhesive, like glue stick also qualifies for this, and your dry adhesive, which would be your tape runners, your tape rolls, which are double-sided tapes. So there are different purposes, benefits, and cons of each, which I will talk about a little bit later in this video. You can always use Elmer's glue when you start as a very, very beginner crafter. This is an acid-free glue and, but definitely less is more. But when you're starting off and you're trying to figure out, is this what I really want to do as a hobby? Just use what you have is what I want to say. So if you have some Elmer's glue at home, go ahead and use that. Once you get going, and you decide you want to continue, then go ahead and maybe you want to upgrade to a craft glue, one of the Cardmaker glues. So these are the 2 glues that are kind of my go-tos. And again, in my recommendations video, I will get into more about why I choose these glues or why I choose whatever tools that I'm sharing. But whatever glue you choose, like, if it's going to be even Elmer's, just remember to use very, very little. Otherwise, it will warp your paper. Righty. So let's go ahead and review. So we talked about paper. So we learned that cardstock comes in different sizes and different weights. And the weight just means how much 500 sheets weighs in its uncut size. So you can look at the pound or the GSM. I would definitely recommend you get like a primary set of colors, black and white to begin with. And 8.5 by 11 is very common typical size, and that's a good place to start. You could also visit big box stores because oftentimes you can use coupons and their own discounts, which will bring the paper down to very inexpensive prices. Next, we talked about scissors and trimmers. So I would say get a regular pair of scissors that you can use for multiple reasons and some detail scissors. There are many other types of scissors, but those 2 would be the ones that I would recommend you start with. And see if you can get your hands on a trimmer. There are different types of trimmers like those on tracks, guillotine, rotary cutting trimmers. So kind of one of those that you think you would get use out of. And you can again go to big box stores where they will oftentimes have these on sale. There are mainly two types, wet or dry adhesive, and these are the benefits and disadvantages of both. So when you're using a wet adhesive, the benefits are usually these are inexpensive, they last longer, they're very strong holds. You can refill them a lot of times, and because it takes a minute for the glue to set and dry, it gives you a little time to place your paper, whatever it is, exactly where you want it. Now the disadvantages are that because it takes time for glue to dry, you have to wait. So there's that wait time. If you put too much glue, it can wrinkle or warp the paper. And a lot of times bottles will tend to clog up, which is more of an annoyance that you have to, try to unplug and unclog. The advantages of dry adhesive is that there is no waiting time. It's instant gratification. You put the adhesive, you place it where you want, and it's set. And another advantage is that it can be removed a lot of times with an adhesive remover. The disadvantages of dry adhesive is that sometimes it can tend to run out quickly, and definitely much more quickly than wet adhesive. So sometimes you can get them in the big rolls, which will, last longer than the little tape runners, but they will still run out faster than wet adhesive, in my opinion. Also, these tend to be more costly than wet adhesive, and if it's a replaceable roll, sometimes those can be tricky to change out, and they're not as user friendly. I hope that this beginner introduction was helpful for you. I hope that you are back for class 2 when we talk about basics essentials. These are the things I would not want to craft without. Until next time, bye.